Anvil Joe says Americans deserve a government that actually works. And yesterday he assured liberals that the Obama administration is trying to build a government that delivers much more bang for the buck than it ever has before. He delivered his remarks by video at a conference on how government can work more efficiently. It's held by the Liberal Center for American Progress, CAP, in Washington. He says our country is facing enormous challenges, from the economy to health care to energy security. In all these areas, Americans deserve a government that actually works. Well, when are we going to get one? I mean, don't we deserve one now, Anvil? When are we going to get one that works? We also face long-term fiscal problems that we are just unable to ignore, he says. In a moment, you're going to be hearing from members of our cabinet on how we're trying to build a government that delivers more bang for the buck than ever has before. Now, what he's saying is, as an example of transparency, he mentioned that it is part of his job to oversee the spending of the $787 billion TAR bill, right? So he's in charge of spending, at least that's what he says, and he's trying to tell us that they have spent, so far, he says, we've spent $600 billion, and we're seeing waste, fraud, and abuse claims at just about 0.2% of the entire amount of money spent. So the folks at CNS News, they did a little checking because, see, they actually have a website, and maybe Anvil Joe, who says he's in charge of the spending, he doesn't know there's a website that tracks the spending, and he says it's at $600 billion. It's actually at $488 billion. What's a few billion amongst friends, huh? That's $488 billion of the total $787 billion. So on May 21st, they had $398 billion that had been paid out, which is about right around 50% of the funds. And I told you they were going to backload this summer and before the midterm elections, which is exactly what they're going to do. The Doing What Works conference put on by CAP, the liberal think tank run by John Podesta, the former chief of staff to Bill Clinton, featured several panels, including one comprised of members of Obama's cabinet: Secretary of Commerce Gary Locke, Secretary of Housing and Urban Development Sean Donovan, and some folks you probably haven't heard of. The discussion by panelists centered on the findings of a report published this month by CAP entitled Better, Not Smaller: What Americans Want for Their Federal Government. See, better, not smaller. In other words, bigger, not smaller. That's what they think that we want, is bigger, not smaller. The report says that a May survey of 2,523 adults contacted by Hart Research Associates reveals that, quote, people would rather improve government than reduce its size. Well, they're talking to a bunch of liberals, no doubt. They want to improve government rather than reduce. Which brings up an interesting question. What do you expect from your government? Really think about that for a moment. What is it you expect from your government? I expect national defense, coining money, building some interstates, keeping the interstates, passable. I'm trying to think of some other things I expect from the government. I really don't expect too much from the government. This is an interesting exercise, and I've done this on occasion. If you people will indulge me for a moment, think about, and this will really help to clear your mind and really focus on where you are as far as in the political spectrum. Think of the top 5 reasons why you live where you live. The top 5 reasons why you live where you live. Now, it could be family, it could be the terrain, it could be the climate, it could be a number of things. Look at the top 5 reasons and really write, now you don't have to do this now, but sometime when you're just hanging out and thinking, write down the top 5 reasons why you live where you live. And then look at that top 5 and see how many have to do with the government. It'll give you an indication of how dependent you are on the government. Some people might say, well, I live here because of the buses, or I live here because of the train schedule. You know, these are government-run entities many times. I'm talking about city buses. You may live in a particular place because of the climate. You may live in because of the terrain. You may live because of the excitement of in Nashville. I look around, why do I live in Nashville? I love the excitement of this city. I love the terrain of it. I had some guests in, and anytime you have guests in and you really see it through their eyes, and you start realizing once again how beautiful this place is with all the hills, and they're going, gosh, this is, I mean, you got views, all of it's just gorgeous around here. Well, that's one of the reasons I like living here. The climate, I like the change of seasons. The only thing I can think of that may be government related as to why we live, particularly where we live in the area, is the schools. So I got 1 out of 5. 1 out of 5 is why I live where I live. I think that's pretty darn good. If you've got 3 or 4 or 5 reasons that are government related, then you're in big trouble because you're depending on the government too much. If you're living at a certain place because you're living in public housing and that's where they put you, that's a government thing, or you're living near where you can pick up the food stamps or whatever the case may be, you just need to look at. But I don't believe this survey that people want a better but not smaller government. Most people I talk to want a smaller government, but they want to, and I think that inherently means it's going to be a better government if it's smaller. It's going to be less intrusive. It's not going to be in your business. And so I think they're asking a loaded question here. They think that bigger is better, and I think that smaller is better. It's a difference of opinion, but I don't believe there are many folks out there that just want to grow the size of government just for the sake of saying the government's bigger. They want government to do what government is supposed to do, but when you ask 10 different people, you probably get 10 different answers as what they expect the government to do. Well, let me ask you, Johnny, what do you expect from your government? I mean, if you were to list now what it is you want from your government, what would that be?
Well, number one, I would want them to protect us from our enemies.
Right.
With our army.
National defense. Yeah.
Right, national defense. Basically giving us the goods that our tax money's supposed to go for.
The cool missiles and things and tanks.
Well, yeah, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And make sure that those that are less fortunate that can't work for whatever reason, and I'm talking about people that legitimately cannot work.
Those who are either mentally or physically unable to work.
Correct, that they are taken care of. Other than that, stay out of my way.
Well, there you go. See, and so when you start asking folks out there, what is it that they want from their government? What is it that you want from your government? Think about that for a moment. What do you want? And I'm talking about the federal government really right now because that's what we're talking about. What do you want from the federal government?
And now that I'm thinking about it, they're really not doing these things that I'm asking.
No, they're not. Other than national defense, and they're wasting a lot of money there too.
Well, yeah, they're not even doing that correctly.
Yeah. So what we want is a more efficient government, don't we?
Exactly.
And that can mean that we can get a smaller government, but we want it to be more efficient. So they're saying better, not smaller. I'm saying better and smaller. Is that a bad thing to ask? Maybe it's too much to ask.
Maybe so. Maybe they can't handle that.
Well, but see, people think they go hand in hand, that better is bigger, don't they? I mean, they think if you, well, let's take it down to the level of schools. What's the first thing that people say you should do when you improve schools?
Throw money at it.
There you go. Throw more money at it. You can throw money at it, and it's going to improve the schools.
And that has always proven to be wrong.
Absolutely, it's always proven to be wrong because money does not mean results. And there are a lot of other things they can do, and we've proven that on this show over and over again. So, I mean, we really have to take a long, hard look at what we want from our government and then demand that, not just demand that it get bigger, which I think that's what the liberals want. They just want bigger, but they want bigger government because bigger government means more people dependent on the government, and more dependency means long-term votes for the Democrats because they're going to keep the gravy train going. They won't tell you that. I just did.